Hey there, Pussy Riot! I have a new review here, and it is a direct-to-DVD adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. This is Dark Knight Returns Part 1, and actually fully titled Batman The Dark Knight Returns Part 1. Not to be confused with a movie that has the same initials, actually, if you think about it, Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight Returns. Anyway, this is the newest one, produced by Bruce Timm, and it is directed by... why am I reading off this? I got this right here. It is directed by Jay Olivia. It is starring the voices of Peter Weller as Batman, Bruce Wayne, Ariel Winter as Carrie Kelly, Robin, David Shelby as Commissioner Gordon, Michael Emerson as Joker, Michael Jackson as Alfred? Yeah, I checked the IMDb. That's his fucking name. It's Michael Jackson. And Maria Canals as Yendel. Now, if you watch the film, you wonder, where have I heard that voice before? It's the actress who plays Hawkgirl on the Justice League show. And Mike McKean, the incredible, wonderful, I've loved all my life, Michael McKean as Dr. Bartholomew Wapner, which is, of course, Frank Miller's. I hate liberals and psychiatrists all wrapped up in one character. Anyway, here it is. The one I've been kind of waiting for, and the one I've been frankly doubting they'd ever really do this. And I know there was kind of hope when they did Year One. I was thinking, wow, if they did Year One, maybe they'll do Dark Knight Returns. And they did it. Here it is. For those of you who don't know, this is the story that kind of changed everything. Not just Batman, but comic books in general. DC decided, hey, let's give that Frank Miller a shot at Batman. Let's see what he does. And he, of course, creates this story, this sort of future where Batman has been retired for 10 years. He comes out of retirement to a world that just doesn't want him back. It's a changed world than what he was used to when he was Batman. Dick Grayson's gone. Jason Todd is dead. Commissioner Gordon's about to retire. All the villains are kind of like worn out. They're all beaten up or comatose or what have you. And the city is now starting to see an increase and violence because of the gang, the mutants, led by the mutant leader, who I'm not sure if I've ever read his name, but he's the mutant leader. And they've been kind of like dominating the city, really. They're all over the place. Their violence is almost at random. Even when they mug somebody, they just kill them for the hell of it. Why not? And Bruce has gotten to the point where he seems to be trying in vain to kind of recapture the excitement in his life. And I mean, there's that wonderful scene where he's racing, and he's trying to fill some void. He just can't do it. And it's when Two-Face comes back, when Harvey Dent is cured by them doing simple plastic surgery and making his face whole. Well, it didn't really take. They probably should have worked on that interior stuff a little bit more. So he, of course, decides to go forth and become Batman again. And of course, he just couldn't do it like once and then go back into retirement. So he breaks out and tries to start over again. But like I said earlier, the world has really changed, and there's this 24-hour news cycle picking at him in every little thing he does. Of course, we knew Frank Miller was completely wrong on that kind of prediction about the future. Anyway, he starts to inspire people, starts to inspire them to stand up for themselves, and including Carrie Kelly, who is a young teenage girl whose parents are kind of like neglectful slightly. They don't even notice that she took off like several times during this story. And she just becomes Robin. She makes herself a suit after she was saved by Batman. One of my favorite sequences is the return sequence, where this montage of him like saving people left and right. I mean, every time I read it, and now that I watch it in the film, I'm just giddy with excitement. It's so well done. The pacing on that is just excellent. Anyway, the story, it covers the first half of the story. This does pretty much what the Harry Potter Part 1, Deathly Hallows, and Kill Bill, and I think the Twilight movie's doing that too. And it was actually a very wise move, because one of the problems with the Bruce Timm adaptations is they always seem to be budgeted at 70 minutes. So if you've noticed, like in New Frontier or All-Star Superman, they've had to cut stuff. In some places they've done really well, and maybe other adaptations not so much. They haven't really had to worry about that with this. This is pretty much the first half of the book. There's some small adaptations here and there. Here and there, I don't know. Like for instance, when in the book where Batman confronts the female mutant who has the little kid at gunpoint, and she says, "Hey, I'll kill him," and he shoots her to death and says, "I believe you." In the movie, he just shoots the gun out of her hand. And frankly, I don't know, I think small choices like that seem to be a little bit more satisfying to me, at least for my view of what Batman is. My view is he does as much as he can to not kill people, and the moment in the book did seem like... Actually, because he has rubber bullets when he attacks the gangs, but I don't know, and other times he just goes, "Fuck it, let's kill them." So it does seem a little more consistent in this one. Also, let's see, the voice acting is all terrific, and it's interesting. It doesn't have a huge all-star cast, which is fine with me. I just am more interested in the story and how it's done and the performances. Peter Weller is genius casting. He's kind of done this before. RoboCop and Dark Knight Returns have often been compared, so finally they meet somewhere. And Carrie Kelly, the actress Ariel Winter, is quite good at the role, and it's Carrie from the book. And Carrie, up until up until Tim Drake, Carrie was my favorite Robin. Now she's my second favorite Robin, and she's well handled here, and it's just great to see her on screen. David Shelby, I think is a good Gordon, actually. I think sometimes I think just his voice isn't as... I don't know, his voice isn't as gruff as maybe I'd hoped. But I think he performs the character well, particularly his Roosevelt speech. His Roosevelt speech actually is one of my favorite speeches in the book. And I love the way it comes back later in the story when Yindel references it near the end, and he handles that speech really well. Michael Jackson as Alfred, his performance is actually the one I had the most trouble with, and not so much as that he does a bad job at all with his performance. His voice sounds terrific. It's just almost his voice sounds too good, and his voice performance sounds like it kind of doesn't jive with the way Andrew Romano, by the way, who's always worked with Bruce Timm, and kind of innovated this concept of voices with characters, where before Andrew Romano really scored with the Batman animated series, she started casting people who had interesting voices and not people doing cartoon voices. And you notice, like, if you watch cartoon shows like, you know, G.I. Joe or, you know, Transformers and Super Friends or stuff like that, before Andrew Romano, everyone did stupid cartoon voices. And after her, voices in cartoons sound a lot more natural. You know, with the exception of, like, you know, goofy cartoon stuff. But I mean, the more action-paced stuff had just a more natural sound to them. So his voice almost sounds like kind of an announcer, you know, walking around in the story. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that sounds fine if you need an Alfred for your video game, but for Dark Knight Returns, I don't know. And it's not such he does a bad job. I just think he's frankly miscast. And here's the thing: David Shelby and Michael Jackson have a big shadow to work under, because we've all kind of gotten used to people who aren't Kevin Conroy playing Batman. But occasionally that still comes up, like, oh, hey, wasn't Kevin Conroy playing Batman in this one? We don't have this problem that much with Gordon and Alfred. They don't appear in all these films. So this is probably the most important one outside of year one, actually. and you know, the voices from that original show are just so good, and they stick with you. And anybody who's not them is a little. They got a lot to prove. Unfortunately, they don't as much. But you know, here's the thing: the performances don't hurt the characters or the scenes at all. And in particular, David Shelley, I think, fares much better. I think maybe the sound of his voice isn't quite matching to what I think this Gordon sounds like, but it's still a good job. And then Michael McKean as Dr. Rock. I mean, there's no such thing as a bad Michael McKean performance. I love listening to this guy talk, and he does a really great job because this character really does believe his own bullshit, and he captures that really well. He doesn't seem like a stupid guy to me, and it's a very smart performance. And of course, Peter Weller. I mean, good lord, he's great. This is a terrific Batman. This is probably one of the better Batman performances, I think. Of course, people are not only comparing him to Kevin Conroy, but people are also talking about Michael Ironside, because Bruce Timm did a 5-minute scene from Dark Knight Returns in an episode of the animated series, which is called Legends of the Dark Knight, where they sort of mismesh parts of Dark Knight Returns in a scene. It's just a lot of fun. And yeah, it's like, oh, it would have been nice to get Michael Ironside, because he did a great job. But I think Peter Weller just he almost lives this part, the way he reads every line. It's just so wonderful, and it's just so subtle and not overly gruff. And I love this Batman, and this is like the darkest Batman, according to a lot of people. And this is the one that really started the trend of really digging Batman into the dirt like this. But he still gives this humanity, and the film does that too. And it doesn't portray what Miller's themes are in this story. It very wisely doesn't muck with that at all. And I think it's the perfect balance. I with some minor gripes here and there about tiny changes. I mean, this is a fantastic film. This is a great adaptation, and the end. I won't really give away the end, but the end just makes me want to see it. The part 2 right now. I am just so excited. And Dark Knight Returns is just one of those things that I read as a teen, and it really did change my feelings about not just Batman. I mean, well, actually not change them, but it kind of cemented them. Like, this really is worth all this time I waste. Because it is ingenious, and I have no regrets showing this to people, and going, you little smart asses making fun of comics, read this. By the way, am I the only one who thinks young Frank Miller looks like the 4th Doctor? I don't know. I always thought so. But I love that. I mean, look, this is an old book. I've had this. God, I've had this for a long time. When did I get this? I got this in. Well, this is from '86. I know I didn't buy it in '86. I got this in like '89, '90. This has a Alan Moore introduction from 1986. So this might be pre-crazy Alan Moore, hopefully. But I really did enjoy this film. I may have a nitpick that the cover is like this Jim Lee shot, this awesome, beautiful Jim Lee shot. It looks excellent, but it looks like just another Batman shot. It doesn't look like the Dark Knight Returns Batman, and it almost, if you look on his legs, it almost looks like it has the New 52 costume design, where it all has the lines and stuff like that. It's like, come on. I know it's New 52, but come on. Let Frank Miller's Batman be Batman. I actually assumed this would be the cover of this. But, I don't know. It's a weird thing to really nitpick. I guess because the film is so great, I don't have much to complain about. I think it's brilliant, and possibly one of the best ones they've done. And, God, I wish this was kind of almost a live-action film, because this is one of the best Batman films I've seen. So, hey, if you know anybody who dug the Nolan films, show them this one too. I think it's really good. Oh, one more thing about the score. I forgot to mention that. I forgot to write down his name, but the score is quite good. It does almost sometimes have an '80s quality to it. I don't know. It's sometimes it's this weird mix of like John Carpenter and Hans Zimmer. I mean, every once in a while, it kind of plays in both fields and works really well. Actually, what's funny is when I first watched it, I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, what a boring score. And then I listened to it a little more carefully on the second time. I was like, wow, this is really good. And I think that was my feelings for the whole film, too, because I liked it even better the second time around. Oh, my God, what a great movie. What are you listening to me for? Go buy it or rent it? No, buy it. Just watch it a whole bunch of times. 5 RAM chips. It's fantastic. Push the button, Lindsay.